make way for the former Ohio State great. Jim calling UCLA, Michigan State, as well as Drake and Wichita State. He'll be on the call 3 games on Saturday, UNC Greensboro, Florida State, USC Drake, Gonzaga, and Norfolk State. How are you doing on sleep there, Jim? You doing all right?
What is sleep? What do you mean? I mean, after that game last night, went into overtime, we were at Mackey Arena, so we had to drive back to Indy afterwards. But, man, it was worth it. It really was to see those young men who didn't get a chance to play last year, kind of, especially the first time for a lot of them, to be a part of it was special. Now you had the winners and you had the losers, of course, but not getting enough sleep was well worth it.
And I know that the headline from those games last night was what happened with Coach Izzo in the tunnel right at the end of the first half. What did you see? What did you think in the moment? And do you still feel the same way that you did when you saw it in real time?
Well, I mean, you got to understand, I've been covering, Michigan State since 2007. So this is not the first time I've seen exchanges like that with Coach Izzo, whether that's with Draymond Green or Kalen Lucas or Denzel Valentine. The list goes on and on. He opens and invites that kind of conversation and that kind of exchange with his players. Now, I think optically, it didn't look good for people who don't follow Michigan State. And even if they do, it's still optically with a player running off, coach grab, player moves again, coach grabs. It doesn't look good. And to boot, you had some other interactions within the huddle before that. Okay, so I know Coach Izzo. I know those guys. I know what the meaning behind it is. So my perception is different than someone's on the outside who just see it optically.
Yeah, I understand it, and I've known Coach for probably 25 years, and I know this is his style. It just didn't look good.
Yeah.
Because, as you know, Jim, better than me, the coach can love you, and he's so invested, and it's so important, but he loses his composure. Coaches are always saying to players, don't lose your composure, but then you have coaches who lose their composure. That's a teaching moment. Hey, you want to grab Gabe Brown and escort him into the locker room? You know what happens in the locker room. You can air out whatever you want to, and the player can even say something back, but not on the basketball floor or in the tunnel when the cameras are on you.
No, and that's the dilemma when you have a passionate coach and passionate players like that, where it spills over. And I think it spilled over in 2 aspects. One, that aspect because, again, the optics didn't look good for Coach Izzo, who's supposed to be the one that calms everybody down. In regards to when things get out of control, it's up to the coach to kind of rein in the players and their emotions. Second, I thought by having too much of that, especially in the second half, it splintered some chances for Michigan State to be able to take hold of the game when they had it. And not just with Coach Izzo, but once a player begins to defend his actions, now he's doing it with his teammates along with his coaches. And a lot of times you don't hear the instructions that someone is trying to give you because you're trying to defend your action.
Yeah.
And that's what happened, unfortunately, with Michigan State. Now, I'll say this, Dan. The difference with this team also, a few years ago with even a Cassius Winston or Draymond Green, these guys had control. They were natural leaders, Denzel Valentine. This team doesn't have it. So when it spirals out of control, now no one on the court brings the team together because you don't have that one leader, that one guy that can do that like they've had in the past.
Yeah, those are all great points. We're talking to Jim Jackson, the former great at Ohio State, spent 14 years in the NBA. 14 years, right?
Yeah.
No All-Star appearance.
No, the closest I got was my 3rd year, the year I got injured. Jamal and I both were right there on the cusp, but Dan Marty got voted in as a starter when he played for the Suns, and the All-Star game was in Phoenix, so that took a slot away. So I never got a chance to play in that game, unfortunately.
So that's why you don't like Marley to this day. Right?
I can't stand it. I cannot.
Do you hold a grudge? Do you hold a grudge against anybody that you played against to this day?
I mean, because what happened to me because it was a reason. when I got injured. I can't hold that against anybody
But
else.
at any moment in your career, like
I did. I'm not gonna lie. It was an incident that happened with Tracy McGrady and I in Houston. For one of the reasons, right, why I may have got traded or not, I believe it was the reason. But I kind of grew up and let that go. Kinda.
what happened?
Oh, I can't tell you. Well, no, it was. I got traded right after Christmas, and I don't know. I heard some stuff in the background about how I got traded, and I didn't take to it too well. And I kind of confirmed some things, but I moved on.
Paulie, bring in Tracy McGrady set to join us.
He's ready, Dan.
Bring him in. Bring him in.
What do you remember the best performance you ever saw that you witnessed on the basketball floor, college or pro?
Oh yeah. I was at the game when Michael Jordan hit the 6 3-pointers against Portland.
Yeah.
In '92. So I was in Chicago for the combine. So my agent and I went to the game. Okay, so I saw Michael Jordan play before, but that was my introduction really into the league itself in a championship form. Okay, I think that was game 1 or 2 of that series. And the old Chicago Stadium. Of course, and it was Portland, Clyde against Michael. It was a championship. It was just electric inside that arena. And to see Michael do his thing that evening, was just like, I was like, oh man, this is what I'm about to get involved with. That was the best.
But what happened that first time you took the floor and you have to guard Jordan?
Well, unfortunately, my rookie year, I wasn't there because I held out. So I missed him before he retired. Remember that?
Oh, okay.
That's right. So when I finally got a chance for Michael to come back, that was that '95 season. I will say this, eerie moment. So we get on the court and it's just quiet. Now we're at home in Dallas. The fans are screaming, but I don't hear nothing. I just see Michael. And it's just almost like when I'm guarding him, it was just he and I on the court, nobody else. I mean, never had that feeling before. Not that I was intimidated by Mike, because we had some games back and forth, but it was just, this is the GOAT. This is Michael. And that's all I felt and heard was just he and I on the court.
Did he say anything?
Oh, he talked all kind of stuff. What do you mean? I was young and I talked stuff back, Mike, he got into his, early on, he may say something. It depends on how the game is going, but then he'll nudge you along, especially he may say some things to the ref about you, but he's talking about you can't guard him or something like that. So it's like, but Mike, what I found, Dan, is this. Mike, along like with Kobe and other guys like that, they respect guys who go back at them and don't back down. Now, you may not get them or be as good as them, don't get me wrong. But as long as you show that you are a competitor and you compete, those guys respect you.
What was the difference between Kobe and Mike?
Mike didn't take a lot of bad shots. So Mike strategically knew how to get to his spots and not take a lot of bad shots. Kobe at times would force the issue, especially when he was younger. Okay, Kobe would bail you out by taking some really tough shots and his teammates would get upset. But Michael was so surgical in what he did. Okay, even when he was younger, he was a volume shooter, but he didn't take a lot of bad shots. And that's the difference between the two. And Kobe, I think, learned that as he got older, that he could still get his numbers and points without jeopardizing the offense by putting it in a tough situation by taking tough shots.
I wonder about these guys who played in a different era. Bird would be dominant now with the three-point shot. I don't know if Magic would kind of morph into what Jason Kidd did, and that is Jason became a very good three-point shooter. Is Michael going to be a volume three-point shooter if he was playing now? Or is he going to be like a Durant, like that guy who can go mid-range if he needs to? So I'm always curious about what yesterday would have done today in today's game, and the fact you can't put your hands on anybody today.
Yeah. Well, let me give you a better one. Let me give you a guys played back in the day. Okay, and I'm gonna answer that question. Let's take Steph Curry.
Yeah.
People always talk about, well, Steph, if he played back in the 80s and 90s, he wouldn't be physical enough to play. I said, wait a minute. Well, you had Spud Webb that played, Michael Adams that played, Muggsy Bogues that played, D. Brown that played, all guys who are slimmer, shorter, that played. And you know why? They grew up in that era where they played on the playground, they played in the alleys, they played in people's backyards, they played a physical game. So they grew up playing that way. Steph would have been the same way. Steph wouldn't have been the player we saw or we see today because he would have grew up playing the game differently, okay? So fast forward, if you put a Michael Jordan, a Larry Bird, a Magic Johnson in today's game, I said this about Alonzo Mourning. Listen, bro, you wouldn't be dominating in the post in this era because at the age of 10, 11, 12, you would be a five-man that would pick and pop. So your game wouldn't be the same because you grew up being taught to play differently. So Michael, Magic, Bird, all would have different iterations of their game that would have changed because the way they grew up playing and being taught the game. Now, the attitudes would probably still be there, but the games would be different on how they approached how they played, in my mind.
Phil Jackson told me a few years ago that, you know, you can't put your hand on Mike. He would average 40 a game, at least. Is that
well, he was close a couple of times before, even when you could. I mean,
I think
he was already there.
Yeah, 37 one year,
exactly.
But he might have averaged 45 a game. Is that you know? Because I don't want to be that. Oh, I remember my era, and all that stuff. But could Mike have averaged 45 a game?
Yeah, because we saw with Wilt when nobody could guard Wilt. Now again, the league was different. You didn't have the number of teams when Wilt played. Maybe 16 at his height. The Eastern and Western Division back then until it got into the 70s and expanded. But Mike was the same way. Think about it. When he averaged 37, he was still learning how to play early in his career. Okay, now you take away some hand checking a little bit later, that gives you more free throws, okay, and more attempts at the basket. So that's really only, if you go from 37 to 45, okay, that's 4 more free throws, 2 more buckets. That's all that is per game.
Yeah.
So it's not unrealistic to think that he could have been in that 40 to 45 point per game range.
We're talking to Jim Jackson, Turner Sports. He'll be on the call. He's got 3 games coming up this weekend. UNC Greensboro, Florida State, USC Drake, Gonzaga, Norfolk State. Give me the number 1 seed, do you think? Maybe a little vulnerable.
Michigan.
Okay.
Oh, no doubt. And the reason why I say it is because Isaiah Livers, their main top scorer, is not playing. He had the stress reaction in his foot and looks to be out. And Dan, as you know, at this time of season, you have an injury like that to a key player, you can't replace them. You don't have time to make up, filling the substitution pattern with guys that feel comfortable in that position enough at this stage when it's a 1-game scenario. If this was a Big Ten, at the end of the Big Ten season, right going into conference championships, maybe he gets back and heals. But right now, not having him on the floor now changes the dynamics of how their offense operates. Gives you a big body that can stretch and shoot it, a leader on the floor and experience, and you can't substitute that. So out of the top 4 seeds, that's the one, because if they get through the first game against, I think, Texas Southern, they may have to face a tough LSU team that took, that really played well in the SEC championship game against Alabama down to the wire. So that itself is a tough matchup if they get there.
Your junior year, you faced the Fab Five?
Oh, yeah. 3 times.
How'd you fare?
Well, I like to believe that the first 2 we dominated. The third one, for whatever reason, when I go back to Classic Sports and it comes on TV, the Elite 8 game, in overtime, we lost. And I keep, for some reason, Dan, thinking that the outcome is going to change. but it never. So I stopped watching it. But, here's the beauty about that Fab Five team. And they're all personal, great friends of mine. I played with Chris in Sacramento, played with Jawan in Houston. Jimmy King was a rookie. He came and was a free agent at the Mavs, and Jalen and I know each other well, and Ray Jackson. Great group of guys. But they grew from the team that we dominated twice in that season to a different, more confident group when we played them in the Elite Eight and got to overtime and ended up losing. So, just again, it just wasn't meant to be. But yeah, that's when I played with those guys, they hung that over me all the time. All the time. All the time.
I got you for 20 points in that game.
Actually, I had 24.
24?
Yeah, overtime.
Paulie, check and see if Jim Jackson's adding to his stats there.
Yeah, I might be, but I swear it was 24.
Mr. Jackson, I don't want to argue with you, but the box score, I got you at 20.
In my mind, it was 24.
If you had 24, you would have won. Jim, you would have won if you had 24.
Again, it goes back to my classic story where I look at it and I want things to be differently.
That is great. You're watching a game, you know the outcome, and you're going to watch.
Know the outcome. Yep. But see, isn't that the definition of insanity?
Yes.
I mean, I'm just saying. We all have it at some point.
You weren't in Dallas when I came to Dallas to have a shooting contest against Jason Kidd?
No, I was.
Do you remember because
it was Jason's rookie year, wasn't it?
And he left practice. He said he got sick during practice, so he didn't have to shoot against me.
Oh, is that what you believe?
Oh, I know that.
But see, here we go.
Back then, Jim, I could take Jason Kidd and he'll be honest with you. He'll tell you that I could. Absolutely.
So wait. Let's get this correct.
We were going to shoot threes.
I remember this. I don't know if it was his rookie year or his second year. I can't remember the year. But so you're telling me that he, the professional.
Yes.
Professional.
Yes.
Said that he's sick because he didn't want to lose to Dan Patrick.
This wasn't a passing contest, Jim. It was a shooting contest.
Okay, but you're missing my point.
Like I'm offended. I'm offended that you would think Jay Kidd could beat me back then shooting.
Well, and that's just like Jay Kidd saying, "Well, I'm gonna come to ESPN and sit in your seat and anchor, the show, and you decide that you get sick and leave."
Yes.
No, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't do that.
I would sit there and wait for him. I wouldn't sick out. I'm telling you, Jason Kidd sicked out of practice that day.
I don't believe it.
Jim?
I don't believe it. Don't believe it.
I'll swear on my guys.
Hey.
I swear on my guy. Jason Kidd will tell you that he's sicked out.
He would tell that?
Yes, he will.
All right. Okay.
When you see Jason Kidd next time.
We're in L.A.
All you need to do is go, hey, Jason, I talked to Dan Patrick. He said that you sicked out, didn't want to shoot against him. When he came, I came to Dallas just to shoot against him, Jim.
Okay.
Yeah, I made a house call.
No, I believe your intentions are right. I really do.
There's no intention.
No, I believe your intention to come there and shoot him was true.
Yes, I was going to.
And I believe you really think you could win. I do believe that.
Oh, I could have won.
I just don't believe the rest of it.
Why don't you text him since you know him, and then maybe call Fritzy back and apologize for doubting me? I'm a Buckeye, Jim.
I don't have it. I know, but I don't have his number.
Oh. 1-800-CAN'T-SHOOT is his number.
Yeah, but it's funny. He ended up being in the top 10 all-time of three-point shots made. How crazy is that?
And look at what I did for his career.
Yeah.
I motivated him.
You did that.
I motivated him and Brooke Lopez.
Yeah.
Jim.
Okay.
Man. I'm starting to side with Tracy McGrady right now.
You wouldn't be the first.
Thank you, buddy. Great to talk to you as always.
Anytime, brother.
All right. That's Jim Jackson, Turner Sports, college football analyst there, and he's got 3 games coming up this weekend.